covered supply and demand, imbalance, and the imbalance with supply and demand, as well as continuation and reversal. But I'm sure for a lot of those smart money traders, they make a lot of use of multiple timeframes. If you don't know what this is, we can go into it. So basically, we want to use our higher timeframes we want to refine our higher timeframes down to our lower timeframes, because using the higher timeframes gives us a higher probability of success. And once we use the lower timeframes, this also increases our RR, which increases the amount that we make from our trades. So as you can see, we had our H1 demand zone, and then within that H1 zone, once we came into this, we created our M5 zone, and our M5 zone left this imbalance, and this would be where we would enter, something like this. So let's go on a full breakdown of H4 to M5. So this is our H4 zone. So as you can see, I've shown it all the way refined, but if we were to just take it like this, this would be our supply. So when we zoom into this, we have this H1 imbalance with this H1 candle. We zoom into that to refine even further. We have this M30 imbalance with this M30 candle. Again, refine even further. M15 imbalance with our M15 demand. And then if we refine even further than that, we've gone all the way down to M5 with our imbalances here and here. And as you can see, that is ultimately where it taps. So we start off with our H4 and we get all the way down to our M5, or in some cases M1. Obviously, you don't always need to over refine. Sometimes you'll get it down to M5 and that'll be more than enough. So in here, we just got a quick little example of H1 to M30. And then you can also see we left this imbalance and we get this nice little re-entry there. So again, this is from M15 to M5. So as you can see, we leave this imbalance. This is the final imbalance in all of this. If you see all of this, there's nothing here. This has been filled. All of these have been filled. This is our final M15 imbalance. We refine that down to our M5. And as you can see, this zone represents the M5 zone. And as you can see, it taps in and then continues in our direction. Next, we have a lovely one from H4, again, all the way down to M5. So H4, you can see this is our demand candle with our slight imbalance. This is our imbalance with our demand candle on H1. Again, demand candle with imbalance. And then last but not least, imbalance. And that is that. So this is...
Maybe if you go back a
little.
Of course. So, for example, for a few hawk eyes in here, where you think like, oh, why not this one? Why not this one in here, right? Because all imbalances and stuff like that. That's, again, where our stuff will come into place, and you know exactly, for example, why you don't look in this one, but this one instead. Again, this is just, again, scratching the absolute top of the iceberg. And of course, there will be so much more clarity. This is, again, just to give you the basic understanding of when price comes back into the supply demand areas, filling the imbalances and giving us our supply and demand candles to know where price should have tapped in. But don't worry about it too much for now of where to get these zones, right? Or not to get these zones from, because obviously everything will be covered. But again, this is, for example, I marked it up very nicely, of where smart money traders and stuff, they don't have the understanding of, oh, why not this one? And then they take something in here and then take an L. Because they don't understand, like literally 95% of what we will teach you. And still keep in mind, everything is still very, very basic, but of course it will have a very big role later. And we will show you how to use it and when to use it. And most importantly, when not to use it. Okay, so keep that in mind, very important.
Exactly, and like Reem said, I'm sure many of you with Hawkeyes were looking at this. Oh, what about this one? And obviously, a lot of you will be trapped in here. You'll see this, boom, and it will continue in your intended direction. I'm sure a lot of you have felt that before. So don't worry, we'll teach you how to avoid that, and we'll actually teach you how to get in there. But obviously, that is for a later point. So this was our original H4 zone. And this right here is our final M5 zone that we refined from that original H4 zone. So let's continue. H4, here is our imbalance. Obviously you can take it like this or like this, but this is our candle that we refine. We then go down to the H1 and we have our imbalance here with, again, our H1 candle, and then M15. You can take it like this if you please, or like this. And then once we refine down, we actually have our first little quote unquote issue, because we now have two zones on the M1. But don't worry, what we will give you at a later point, again, this is just the complete basics. At a later point, we'll actually show you the lower time frame confluences once it comes into either one of these zones and how you can know which zone it'll be. So don't worry about all of that. But as you can see, it ended up being the lower zone. As you can see, like I've said, you will not always be able to refine down to one zone. As we progress with the content, we will show you how you can narrow it down between the zones. But for now, we're just showing you the absolute basics. So H4, again, our supply candle with imbalance. Price taps in, but we can do better than this. Imbalance, our final imbalance on M30 with our supply candle, and then down to our final imbalance on the M15, and this is the candle. As you can see, yes, we may think, this is M15, we need to go lower, we need to be on M1 or 30 seconds or 1 second or whatever you want, but no, this is a 2-pip zone. Once you get to this point, you don't need to be going crazy refining down to 0.1 pips or taking a limit off that. Like, we don't need to over refine, and it's very important that you actually don't over refine, because it's not worth it. So again, original H4 POI down to our M15 POI that's shown on the H4.